Hello world! It's such a beautiful morning, I'm in a good mood, so I just wanted to take a second video just after that IKEA video I just recorded before about something where I see combinations between the IT industry and the manufacturing industry, and I call it the rate principle. As many of you may know, in the IT, if you want to have a lot of storage space and also want to have some redundancy, you build a RAID. That's called, it's a redundant array of inexpensive disks, which was invented back in the times where hard disks, large hard disks were very expensive, and someone realized, let's take just a bunch of smaller hard disks, put them in parallel and combine them with some intelligent piece of software so we get more storage space. And that principle that was very successful. I mean, now the RAID systems are everywhere. Either you just want them to have redundancy and better availability of your data. If one of the disks breaks down, you still have a copy on the other disk. And the second advantage is you can easily scale. You can put many disks in parallel, and as we know later on, the same principle was also applied to processors. So now, if you need a lot of computing power, in most cases you will not use one big machine that has a lot of power. You will use many small machines and combine them together in a cluster. And the big advantage of that is that you can use standardized small machines that are mass produced, and that in sum then become cheaper than that one special custom-made supercomputer that was optimized for having a lot of power. And I really believe that in the manufacturing industry you could also do that in many cases, but mostly you say 10 machines will cost me more than one machine, and that one machine, so I built that one specialized machine that is optimized for what we want. But since now even copying physical products becomes so much cheaper, if you have done the engineering, if you have done the design work for one machine, if you build one or if you build 5 or if you build 10, the additional costs are very low, because the guy who makes you your parts needs to program his CNC machine, and that takes usually as much time than running it. And if you have a larger machine that you need for that one part, usually you can just put all the 5 parts in that one machine, program it once, let it run, and you have 5 identical parts, and for just a few bucks more. And I mean, in the business where I'm now, where we make a lot of special machinery for manufacturing lines, in most cases we are below the minimum order quantity. So we order 1 or 2 parts, and these 1 or 2 parts become very expensive. But if I try to make a concept and say, look, let's build 5 machines in parallel, people usually say, oh, that's going to be expensive. I don't believe so. And the big advantage of making several machines in parallel is you can let these machines run at a much slower pace. And if you can let them run at a slower pace, it's much easier to get them to run properly. I've spent hours and hours analyzing really high-speed video, 240 frames a second, frame by frame, to know what's going on in that one machine, because that one machine had to run at a very high speed. And the second big advantage is you get redundancy. If you have 5 machines in parallel, one of them breaks down, you still are producing with 80% of your capacity. If I walk into a server space of Google, probably they won't let me go in, but if I could go in, it's just a thought experiment. If you walk in such a huge, how is it called? In a computing, in a server farm, now I remember. If you walk in a Google server farm, you could walk in with a big hammer, start hitting these computers, just destroying 5, 10, 20 of them. No one would notice. It was just in these thousands of computers that are running in parallel, if you just kill 10 or you kill even 100 of them, it just makes a slight difference in throughput of data, and so probably if they are really running at a very, very, very high load, they would make the difference. If they are not running at the maximum load of that system, they will not make the difference. And so that's the huge advantage. That's the huge advantage of having a redundant system. And so I think in industry we should more think about parallelizing tasks and put smaller machines in parallel instead of having one big machine that does the job. Because engineering is the same. For one machine or for 5 machines, engineering is exactly the same, and manufacturing from 1 to 5 machines is close to the same, because the real change in cost is from 0 to 1, and then from 1 to 1000. And between 1 and 5, the cost of a few parts more to make is marginal. So that's my multidisciplinary approach, using that cluster rate idea in building manufacturing lines. Hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe. See you later.